Welcome back everybody to Forza Horizon 6, and today we're taking a look at the 2003 Aston Martin DB7 GT. So the DB7 in general was produced from September 1994 to December 2004, while this GT version was introduced in 2002. But despite the normal GT and its other variants producing over 7,000 vehicles, only 190 of these were made, while a further 112 automatic versions were also built. But that ultimately has less power than this, while probably weighing a bit more as well. So this is ultimately the best version of the GT to have. And yeah, over the standard DB7 Vantage models, this has updated suspension and vented disc brakes from Brembo. Visual differences also include the fact that it's got a mesh front grille, vents on the bonnet, a boot spoiler, an aluminium gear lever, optional carbon fibre interior trim, and new wheels. And yeah, all in all, a very handsome car, I find. No, it's not the most advanced bit of kit you're going, because it is at the end of the day based on a ancient platform in the form of the XJS from Jaguar. So yeah, it's not the most modern of vehicles, even for 2003, but still, it looks really nice. You've got a handsome amount of leather and wood inside here. No carbon fibre on this version, thankfully. I have no idea why anyone would pick carbon fibre for their Aston Martin, let alone one that is more kind of older vehicle like this one. It would look extremely vulgar and really not fit the kind of car that this is. And yeah, it's even got a modicum of practicality on the go as well, with a decent sized rear boot. There are rear seats, but as you can see, they are not the got the most amount of room. And with that sloping rear coupe roof, probably wouldn't have the most amount of headroom either. Now you could get a DB7 Vantage with a inline 6 supercharged 3.2 litre engine producing 335 horsepower. I'm sure that's a really rather quite lovely a nice lovely engine, but this ultimately has a better engine. 5.9 litre V12 with an extra 100 horsepower over that inline 6 version, so that's 435 horsepower and 410 pounds-feet of torque, which is 49 extra pounds-feet of torque as well over that inline 6. Granted, the inline 6 does have its torque at a lower revs at 3,000 RPM, while this is around 5,000 RPM. It gets its maximum torque, but that's the only advantage the inline 6 quite frankly has over this. So yeah, more power in this, but then again, it's not the lightest of vehicles, despite looking like a lightweight sports car in certain regards. It still ultimately weighs 3,968 pounds. Although if you did want a lighter version of this car, you could have gone for the DB7 Zagato. Now unfortunately only 99 of them were made for the public, so even rarer than this one. But it did have all of the upgrades for this, so the same suspension, same brakes, same engine, same power, same top speed and such, but it did weigh around 130 pounds less than this due to its alternate body, which yeah, radically changed the rear end in particular. And yeah, we have actually had that on a previous Forza game. We had that on Forza Motorsport 4, but this is the first time we've ever had this version of the DB7 on the game. And yeah, even though I really like the Zagato from memory on Forza Motorsport 4, it is nice to at least have this version on a game, a newer game. And yeah, it is a car that I have long since wanted on a Forza game. So I'm really, really glad it's finally here via the car pass. But nonetheless, let's get out onto the Hakubu circuit and see just what it can do. Right, here we are at the Hakubu circuit, and as per usual, let's hear what the car sounds like, and then we'll talk about it some more. So yeah, in a lot of ways this reminds me of the Ferrari 275 GTB4 Spider that we recently reviewed, in that it's drop dead gorgeous. Yeah, I absolutely love the looks of this in general. It's rear-wheel drive, it's got a V12 engine, but like that Ferrari, it's not the best handling car from a vehicle of its time. You know, the Ferrari certainly would have been outmatched by, say, the likes of a Miura from that kind of period. And yeah, it was definitely far more agile and lighter sports cars from the period as well. But at the end of the day, this is more of a Grand Tourer than an out-and-out sports car, despite the huge amount of power and the large engine and such. And yeah, that's what GT stands for at the end of the day, Grand Tourer. So even though it's got those updated brakes and suspension and such, it is at the end of the day still more of a car for, you know, lapping up huge amount of miles and yeah, going long distances and in great comfort and such. But that's not to say that this is a slouch in terms of its acceleration or anything like that, as it can do 0 to 60 in 4.94 seconds, 0 to 111.778 seconds, and going to a top speed of 186 miles an hour, which is pretty good even by today's standards, to be honest. It's just unfortunate that it has as much weight as it does in its body, because yeah, nearly 4,000 pounds, you can definitely feel that weight at times. And even though the engine is, you know, obviously free revving, being naturally aspirated, and it's getting up to a decent amount of revs in its top end, it definitely does feel like it's held back by that weight, unfortunately. So yeah, weight is the only killer with this, as it seems, which is the complete opposite to the Ferrari, which had very little in the way of weight. Probably too little in the way of weight, considering how much power it had for the period it was out. But yeah, the weight is a big killer with this, but thankfully it's got a really rather charismatic engine. It looks absolutely amazing. It's new to the Forza series, and yeah, it's just a generally a fun car to drive, because yeah, being based on an old school design, it's going to have plenty of old school fun going for it. So yeah, on the whole, I'm really pleased it is in the game. It's not a perfect car by any means, so if you are looking for a lightweight, you know, V12 rear-wheel drive engine car, then you will no doubt be better accustomed to some other vehicles. But for me personally, as a fan of cars that aren't necessarily the greatest, just because of how they look, I'm a massive fan of this. So yeah, the looks and the sound of this are more than enough for me to recommend this. But if you are an Aston Martin fan, particularly when it comes to their V12 powered vehicles, then this will be right up your street. Hopefully we get the likes of the Vanquish from this period as well added to this game. That is another car that I really enjoy. But one advantage this car does have over the Vantage Vanquish is the fact that this has a 6-speed manual, whereas the Vanquish had to deal with the flappy paddle stuff, which yeah, even back then was ridiculed, and certainly doesn't, you know, perform as well as modern day equivalent. So yeah, but on the whole, a fantastic looking car. Really glad it's added to the game. Would I like the DB7 Zagato at some point? Maybe, because like I said, it is a lighter version of this, but this is more than worthwhile being added to the game. And yeah, it's a real treat as a fan of this car. I have been for the longest time, ever since that notorious review on Top Gear. So yeah, well worth getting if you haven't already. And yeah, it's another great addition to the car pass overall, and continues to make that car pass worth buying. So yeah, but nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.